She's riveted still.
There she is. There she is.
Greetings and felicitations.
Hello and welcome to Indefinite Lunch in Infinite Combinations number 125. I'm so glad you're here today because I'm continuing my review of For All Mankind Season 3. We've reached episodes 7 and 8 called Bring It Down and The Sands of Aries. And so I'm working my way all the way through For All Mankind. It looks like I'm actually going to make it to finish all of season 3, all of season 4, all of the seasons that are currently out by early December. So by early December, I will have covered all of For All Mankind and I'll be caught up so that whenever they come out with new episodes, I'll be ready to go to talk about them as they're released. So I'm excited for that. And today we're going to talk about these two episodes, Bring It Down and The Sands of Aries. And so let's do that. And thank you so much, Snortpoopus Cuber. Hello humans and other critters. Great to see you. Sorry I had to start a little late. I had to pick up my daughter from school, so that's why we're here a little later than normal. So first, let's start with Bring It Down. So Bring It Down first aired on July 22nd, 2022. It is set from March 27th to early April 1995, so that's very specific timing. I like when they do have a time frame other than just the year. This episode was written by Nicole Beatty and Dan Liu. Nicole Beatty, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. I didn't look her up before, but I have a feeling I know this. Either I just recognize her For All Mankind from For All Mankind or something else. No, that's it. I just recognize her as a recurring author. Yeah, because she's written 32 episodes, so that's it. Hello to Lombardi 1969 and Lemon Pie. Good to see you here today. And so the synopsis for this one is a joint mission brings about conflict between the crew and the members, and this episode starts with the news broadcast. The discovery of a subterranean reservoir of liquid water on a ridge above Valles Marineris has reshuffled the decks on the Red Planet as a new joint mission between the Soviets and Helios Aerospace is now underway. A large specialized drill will be flown down autonomously from the Helios ship Phoenix. Once the well is established, it could fuel the growth of a more robust colony on Mars. Long a dream of Helios founder Dev Asa. The Soviet Union has already begun planning the first steps of the drilling operation with their new partners. Questions remain about how NASA will respond, as the Russians have excluded them from participating in the new venture. And so, basically, in the previous episode, I guess in all the previous episodes, we've been leading up to this. Once they actually get on Mars, how do you live on Mars? Well, you need water, and, since you're so far away from home. And turns out they found a large reservoir of water, and Helios and the Russians are going to work together, and they're kind of leaving the U.S., the NASA, out of it. And I like the little graphics here of how they're going to drill down to get to the water. Looks simple enough, and it's anything but in For All Mankind. So in the previous episode, Margot said she tried to find a way to get Sergei's family to the U.S. and help him defect. However, before she could put any plan into action, it looks like Sergei is being deported back home to Russia. And so and so then he's going to probably be sent back to the KGB prison that he was at, that was being tortured. I don't know. They kind of do internal damage torture to this guy. They're not harming him externally, they're harming him internally. And instead of going to work for Helios like the other Russians are doing, he's getting sent back to Russia, possibly to his death. But nonetheless, Margot promises they will see each other again, but neither look too sure as they say goodbye. And after he's gone, Margot breaks down. And we roll the credits. The backstory for that, if you're just tuning in, is there's also this romantic tension that's been going on for years that they've not what's the word, consummated. Bring it down. That's the name of the episode. And now they're at a subcommittee hearing on NASA contracts, but it's all a ruse. This entire subcommittee hearing is all a ruse for a more dramatic accusation of the proportions that you expect when two closeted closeted gay people in the 90s become president, the husband to the president. So basically Larry told a friend, an old college friend, about the affair he's having at the White House. And so now the Democrats are accusing him of or asking about it. So this whole they're pretending that this whole meeting is about independent contractors and their relationship with NASA and everything, all of the companies that they work with. And but it's not about that. It's about the truth about Larry. It's gonna come to some kind of conclusion at some point, but that conclusion is not reached in this episode, so I kind of don't care. And so I'm waiting for something to actually happen, and it's not occurring in this particular scene or anything in this episode or the next episode, but it is a thread that they stretch. And when we get a conclusion to that thread, I will tell you more at that point. I like this newspaper. We've got the Houston Sun, and I want to say hello to Greek letters. How are you today? Yeah, so this newspaper is showing President Ellen Wilson missing out on the water gold rush on Mars. So then we cut to Jimmy talking politics with his new anti-NASA friends. He's going to help them with something he hasn't done before. So they're using him for something. Meanwhile, Danny's still taking pills, Jimmy's brother, under the nose of everybody, under Ed's nose. I don't know why he's letting this occur when, and we do see the consequences of having somebody hooked on oxycodone and other kinds of pain pills and things. And there are consequences for that in this episode. So one of the quotes of this scene is, "The samples of our geologist, Cosmonaut Castillo, took on the ridge have come back. They are free of biosignatures and we are approved for drilling." And so as soon as I saw that, I realized, wait a minute, but what does Kelly say about it? Because she's got her own. She's got her own thing. Kelly's also looking for life on Mars. But her methodology of searching for life is a little different. And she has not been consulted. And she's going to be upset about that. Then they have, I don't know if this is a bit on the nose, the fact that they call their drill, they name their drill bad. But it means big ass drill. And then they're going to pilot the MSAM to the top of the ridge. Of course, the MSAM is the Martian Service Access Module. And so that's their plan to get to the water, to build the colony, to expand. And we've got Danny high as Yeah, he's just really super high, staring at a coffee maker light, and yet he's assigned as a co-pilot, and it makes Ed look really oblivious. I don't know. He's even. I know he's Gordo and Tracy Stevens' son, but he's even worse than them. He's taking oxycodone and amphetamines, and there are several scenes here where you just see Danny buzzing in and out, not able to focus, and they even use the camera effects and they use special effects to show that he's not all there. Hello, PJ Bear. How are you? And so they debrief about the drilling while Danny's distracted. So Kelly's speaking to Alexi and finds out that the Helios team is already going to drill, even though she hasn't done her, but she hasn't completed her testing on the samples to determine whether or not there's life in that water. So there's water, they want to drill the water, but if there's life there, you don't want to disturb the life that is indigenous to Mars or potentially. And so she's upset that they're going to drill without her checking whether or not they don't actually confirm life in this episode, but based on the way this show goes, based on the thematics of the show, you know for a fact Kelly's gonna find life. So why drag it out when we already know? We already know there's gonna be life. Just tell us what kind of life. I want to see the microbes. Show me the Martians. You're just pulling my leg here. Instead of showing me Martians, they're microbial Martians, sure, but Martians nonetheless. But we don't get to see them in this episode or the next one. That one, they make us wait. And then all of a sudden, I find out that Elena divorced her husband. I don't remember what scene that happened in. I guess it just happened off camera. Off camera, Elena divorces her husband. I guess is it because she didn't take the pay rise from Helios, or and he was upset about that because that would have helped him take care of the kid and pay for taking care of Aleda's dad, who seems has some kind of dementia or Alzheimer's. Yeah, nothing's happening with the water testing yet. Right, because we have to wait for Kelly's results, and her results aren't ready. And I'll be mentioning that again when Kelly actually confronts Ed about it. Oh, Greek letter says he would not be satisfied with microbes or fungi. He wants green Martians with eyes and antennae on top of their heads. those are the those are the only Martians that'll make him happy. Werewolves in London. Oh. Oh, well, it is gonna be Halloween soon. So that it's perfect time for that kind of song. Anyway, after I got over the fact that they're divorced, I mean, come on, this show this completely threw me off guard because I didn't think that they would divorce just. But I do realize that money is the biggest cause. Like not agreeing about money is one of the biggest causes of separations like this. I just like to see families make it through tough times, but I guess these kids just gave it up when tough got going, which is pretty sad. At least though, they do seem to be friendly, and he's helping her with her work. She is her Nancy Drew work because she's trying to figure out who gave her 1992 nuclear engine designs to the Russians. He seems to know about game theory and mathematics, and he says that she might be missing some data points. As he's looking at her work, because she's going through all the personnel who possibly know anything about this engine that could have leaked this engine data to the Russians. And he suggests that maybe you've looked at all your subordinates. Maybe it's not a subordinate. Have you looked at people who are above you? And as it turns out, Elena has not. She has not looked at her bosses at any point yet. And she has not even suspected Margot. Margot is the last person she suspects. Even in the next season, nothing is conclusive on the life testing. Really, PJ Bear? Oh, wow. Okay. But I know it's going to happen. They're really teasing that life, aren't they? Okay. I guess I won't get my hopes up then for that in the next episodes. I thought maybe we'd get it coming up. Um, Greek letter says, I don't know if I've told it before, but the astronaut bumping up and down is mesmerizing. Bumping up and down, up and down. Well, yeah. I really like that GIF also. That's why I chose him. Even though we're on Mars now, I should pick a Mars GIF, but this one I love it so much. I haven't found one that I like more. Well, we're I guess we don't even find out in season 4 about the Martians. Damn it. That's disappointing. That's the kind of stuff we're meant to in watching these shows. So they tease you with the sci-fi stuff and then give you like tons and tons of drama. But anyway, Aleda is on Margot's tail. She's almost got it, but not quite. Her ex-husband is helping her out with that, which sucks that they had to get divorced. He's pretty cute. So Ellen is lecturing Larry on everything he's risking by having that affair with Jeremy, and not just that, but telling people about it. He's explaining how difficult it is to make sacrifices, and he's revealed to Ellen that Pam sacrificed her love for Ellen's career, and apparently that's some big shocking news to Ellen Wilson. Madam President had no clue that Pam gave her up for her career. Um, the only reason anyone cares about any of this is because she's president. Otherwise, I'd be complaining more about this storyline. But I get it. It's been the seed has been planted the entire time that this is going to come to some kind of revelation because they're both in the closet and she's president and Larry is a sham. They have a sham marriage and the truth has not yet come out, but it's going to. And so we're going to have to wait and wait and wait, and probably we'll get resolution to that before we get life on Mars. And oh, okay, so anyway, Larry. Oh, right. And at that meeting where he was asked about the affair, he lies under oath. So that kind of reminds you of another person who lied under oath about a sex scandal in Washington D.C. Except it's the first gentleman rather than the president. Kind of reminds you of Bill Clinton, who Ellen Wilson beat in the election in this alternate universe. So Sunny's all about conspiracy theories, and the conspiracy theories that she thinks about NASA lead her to believe that Jimmy's parents, Gordo, and Tracy, did not sacrifice their lives to save everyone on the moon base from dying from a nuclear explosion. That would have also been a problem for the space program. She says no, they didn't do that. They're so what does she think? If they didn't actually do this, if they didn't actually save everybody's life by stopping the reactor from exploding, what did they do? What does she think they did? I'm fine with them having these conspiracy theorists, anti NASA, kind of cult like people. They're fine it could be interesting if they could tell us what their conspiracy theories are like, because when you have a conspiracy theory, you want to know what that theory is. What do they think happened instead? I don't know. They don't tell us. It would make it a little more fun to know that. Greek letter says, if you did a 24-hour stream with just that GIF, I'd watch it. No sound, just that GIF. It is a nice GIF. Anyway, they're they're gonna infiltrate. Yes, they're not really infiltrate. I mean, because Jimmy is the son of Gordo, so he's allowed to bring a visitor. It's not weird or at all that he's taking a quote unquote girlfriend on a tour. She's not really his girlfriend, but he does appreciate her company, and she uses him in that way. Slightly sinister. Anyhow, Danny is totally stoned, putting on a space helmet. Nothing bad's gonna happen from that. And we've got it's interesting to see how people cope with space travel. Some people take drugs. Other people play with toy mechanical puppies. And I don't know, I think the latter's kind of cute. I mean, we do sometimes miss nature, I'm sure, when you're out in space and interacting with other earthlings. And if you can't actually bring a real puppy, I guess the simulation of a toy could be comforting even to an adult. So I don't see too much of a problem with it. Wait, was that a tribble? No, it was a puppy. Yeah, it's a toy puppy. And it barks and it comes up to you and it wants pets. And but Danny doesn't think it's so cute. He says, "Get this away from me." And Nick says, "Don't worry. I mean, he's not going to bite you. Not a big animal lover." And Danny says, "That's not an animal." Nick says, "Don't you listen to him, Peach. You absolutely are an animal. He's just a sourpuss." It's everyone has, I guess, astronauts. It's a simulation of a pet. So Kelly is getting after Ed for drilling without letting her finish her samples, testing her samples. Oh, yeah, I don't have my tribble with me right now. I'll squeeze it for you. Hello to Matt G. And yeah, basically Ed isn't taking Kelly's research seriously, which proves to me that there is life in that reservoir that they're going to drill. She came up with the methodology for finding life that's being ignored. So, of course, they're going to find something living in there eventually. But we're going to have to wait until later to find out. And if the if what I'm reading in the chat is true, I'm going to have to wait next season too. They still don't find any life. But I'm pretty sure it's there based on this. The seeds are being planted here. And since we haven't found life on Mars, we could find life on Mars in this alternate universe. Because it was very, very well possible then back when Mars used to have an atmosphere before it got blown away from Mars not having a good enough magnetosphere. There are theories that there was life. There was definitely water. There could have been life. Greek letter says that they substitute puppies for emotional stability. Does that mean that they provide crews that suffer from long-term isolation with rubber dolls is. I don't know how far the whole simulation of real life goes. I no, I don't know. I don't know. That is a question. Would that keep people from procreating on another planet? It is a question to ask. I'm not the one to answer at this point. Oh, right. And as Kelly's admonishing her dad for drilling without waiting for her samples to come back, her tests to come back, she says, "Now maybe you'll be the first. Well, you've always wanted to be the first at something, Dad. Now maybe you'll be the first man to kill life on another planet." So, oh, did that happen already? Okay, Jimmy is giving Sunny a tour of the building, and he says the most exciting part is mission control, but she's not allowed to see that. She causes a diversion so Jimmy can steal a badge, but he doesn't have the nerve to do it. And I can see that she's taking kind of a calmer method with grooming Jimmy. She doesn't get angry at him for not stealing the badge. And so this method seems to work because he ends up stealing a badge from Alexander Rossi, Alexander Rossi was he was the commander of the Jamestown base on the moon. And so he's being nice to Jimmy, showing him a memorial board of pictures with Tracy. And so we find out it's been 25 years since the first female astronauts in NASA graduated, and which of course includes his mother. And he's distracted by this, and but then he decides, because of this tender moment, to steal the badge. And I'd like to say hello to Alistair's Queen Emma. Hey Emma, how are you? And so that's Jimmy. He's making friends with the anti-NASA people and taking them on tours of NASA so they can figure out what to do to NASA, but we still don't know what their actual conspiracy theories are. We just know that they don't believe what they hear. And so Ellen loses the jobs bill, and there's a meeting to mitigate the attempts to take down Larry with those affair accusations, and they say Barron's key. Ever since he's had his sex scandal, he's been itching for payback. And you're really, and so I guess they're gonna do something with that. And then, oh hey, he says, Carl, it's the only way I can taste the damn things. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. They also talk about putting Tabasco on cornflakes. I've never done that. I put Tabasco on popcorn, but not on cornflakes. And I'd like to say hello to FKHC 2005. And instead of President Ellen Wilson is supposed to go to a fundraiser, but she decides to take a detour to go see her old girlfriend. What show am I freaking talking about? Are we going to do space stuff? Here we are. We are back on space. And Ed is finally confronting Danny, who's been taking pills forever, and finally telling him that he realizes what he's doing. And so he says that he no longer can be a co-pilot on their mission to drill for water on Mars. But this is frustrating for me because Ed sees there's a problem. There's a huge medical problem with Danny. He's addicted to oxycodone, amphetamines. When there's a huge medical issue, you're supposed to go back up to the Phoenix. Ed is completely ignoring this protocol. He set it aside before, because he thought if Danny had some work to do that he'd be better. But Danny's clearly showing he's not getting better. In fact, he's getting much worse. And so this is the point where Ed should just send him back to the Phoenix and possibly maybe even to the brig for stealing all of that medicine. He's clearing the pharmaceutical cabinet of medicine that could save someone else's life who actually needs those painkillers. And I didn't take a screen cap of it. I guess what happened to the screen cap of it? Did I take it? Did you guys see the part where Danny gets upset at the toy dog for barking at him, that he stomps on it and destroys it? So he crushes this toy puppy because it barks at him too much, and it's in smithereens. And Nick says, "What's wrong with you?" And so this is part of also why Ed realizes what's going on. He can't ignore the signs anymore. So now you're stomping on dogs. And Danny's so incredibly unstable. But he's still allowed to be on the Mars base. He's not sent back to Phoenix. Unfortunately. And Danny's going to help Nick with the drilling because that's exactly what you want someone who's drug out to do, is help with drilling. So Aleda finally is getting closer to figuring out who's been giving the Russians the engine designs from 1992. And she thinks it's got to be Emma, Margot's assistant. And since Margot doesn't buy this and tells Aleda to stop or she'll be fired, essentially you can tell what Aleda's thinking. She doesn't say it, but you can tell she's thinking that if it isn't Emma, it's got to be Margot. Especially since Margot's trying to get her to stop. And she's been trying to get Aleda to stop investigating this at the beginning. She even makes fun of her, saying that you're carrying on like this is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And this is a reference to BBC series broadcast. And then Jimmy's having second thoughts about stealing the badge and wants to give it back. And yeah, this is, you're having second chances. Go with your gut, Jimmy. This is your chance to cut ties with these new friends. But no, he doesn't do that. And it turns out they've already done something with the badge. Somehow, this badge was enough for them to be able to steal the statue of Gordo and Tracy. So they stole the statue from the Johnson Space Center. And I think it's kind of a weird choice, but I guess it could have been worse. At least it didn't blow anything up. And PJ says, it's okay, Danny's got plot armor. Really? Does he really? Does he have plot armor? Oh, and you're off today. KHC 2005. Good news. That's fun. So they steal a statue. Okay. I'm not sure how. Like, are there not guards at NASA at all times? Are there moments where I guess that there's nobody around? And did they just had this pickup truck, how did they haul that statue? Did they bring a forklift, or I'm not sure. I guess they're not going to tell us. It kind of reminds me of when the Grinch steals the steals the Christmas tree, and Cindy Lou Who says, what are you doing with that tree? Why are you taking our tree?" And he says that there's a light that's not working on one side, and I'm gonna take it to my factory. So maybe when they were stealing the statue, they said, "Don't worry, we'll bring it back. We're just gonna take it for cleaning," because there had to be some kind of security at NASA. I don't know. I can't. They actually had some kind of weird heist, but we didn't get to see it, so I have to fill in the blanks. FKHC 2005 says, like a lot of things, they have 24-hour people on watch, but they must not have people standing around for 24 hours. Maybe at the gates they do. Okay. Okay, fair enough. And that's how they got in through the badge. But anyway, they got this weird statue of Gordo and Tracy when they saved everybody's lives in Jamestown. And so President Wilson flies all the way to Pam after finding out that Pam sacrificed their relationship so that Ellen Wilson could continue with her career because Pam knew that she was holding her back. But apparently, this entire time, this is completely unknown to Wilson. She totally bought Pam's letter that Pam went back to the old girlfriend, which she's clearly not with at this moment. And I want to say hello to Canadian Spider-Man. Hey, Spider-Man. PJ Bear says it's got a Nick needs buffing. The crane off screen loads it. The crane, yeah, the crane. Yeah, that entire heist was off screen, so you have to imagine exactly what happened. Just like you have to imagine the bullshit reasons that later got divorced. Lots of things you have to just imagine in the show about. And so yes, President Wilson is doing something about Pam. She visits her while her husband is close to being publicly accused of an affair. So this will be great. Sure, now Pam is gonna be now Ellen's gonna be questioned about why she flew all the way to this random person. Meanwhile, we're back to the Soviet Helios water drilling site. FKHC 2005 says, I've walked around the Air and Space Museum before the museum opened for the day while they have guards there. They are not walking around the whole time when it's closed. Okay. You know what? And then I guess it's believable. So they're ready to drill for water. And kill that life that Kelly's gonna discover. Maybe not in season 4, since apparently it's not season. Maybe in season 5 we're gonna find it. I'm sure they'll still be in Mars. I want to say hello to DJ Play Nice. How are you? He says rock. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of rocks on Mars, and they got to drill through some of that rock to get to the water. I don't know. You can bet that if there was a remote chance of life, that NASA would postpone the drilling for a little while and send water. But this isn't NASA's mission. Helios and Russia, I guess, operate a little differently, apparently. Except Ed's from NASA. He should have that instinct built in. But I can get the practicality of wanting water and not having to be so tight with the rationing of the water. Because I think in the other episode, they either were restricted to a gallon or half a gallon a day, which is minuscule when you consider having to be clean and do things. So Danny's having more fun with pills. It's just crazy that Ed doesn't just not just he grounds him. That's good. That Danny's not going to fly. But I wouldn't think you'd want Danny to have any control at all over anything. I'd just say go to your room until we can get you back on Phoenix on the next orbit. But anyway, we've got Nick and Danny. They're monitoring the pressure of the drill, and Ed tells Nick to boost the CO2 compressor speed to keep the tank pressure within the window. And so this is something you've got to coordinate with the base, with the habitat, to make sure things don't go awry during drilling. But just like, this is like a sitcom, and I don't like it when my science fiction show turns into a sitcom, because, well, not exactly a sitcom, more like a dramatic sitcom. It's just really a soap opera, I guess. So Nick just happens to go offline. Like, he takes his headset off to go do some calculations. Why couldn't he bring his calculations to his station so he can listen and do his work at the same time? But no, instead he has to he has to take off his headset and leave Danny in charge to monitor the pressure. Hey, I don't know why Nick thought that was a good idea, but and so Danny is in kind of some kind of druggy haze, and so he can't figure out what to do, and he's getting stressed out by people telling him to boost the compressor speed, and that, oh no, and then eventually they say Mayday, Mayday, and so what does Danny do to solve this problem? He turns off the comms. So that's one way to get everybody to shut up. And after the explosion, after the disaster is already underway, does Nick turn around and realize that the drill the drill site is under distress. There's been an explosion, and the pressure keeps rising, and there's no way it wasn't released. So there was the explosion. So way to go, Danny. Not only did the drill explode, but people are injured from shrapnel. So we got some shrapnel injuries. Mayday inbound from the ridge. 2 injured. And Isabel's. They ask how Isabel's doing, and she's got a bad puncture. People have punctures in their suits. They're trying to cover it with tape. They're working on getting back to the habitat to deal with their injuries. So, Ed is also injured from a puncture wound, and the others take the little M-Sam, the Popeye, back to the heliospace. And they're trying to keep the holes from the shrapnel, the holes in their suits, their spacesuits. They're trying to keep them as tight as possible. And once they get to the heliospace, what type of pills are those? Oh, Danny's been taking oxycodone and some type of amphetamines. I forget exactly. I had it last week. I had the pills down last week, precisely what he's taking. I guess I could go look and find out. What else has I got to do? And this episode is over. Because everybody's running, it's not only has the drill exploded, this explosion has caused a seismic event, basically a Mars quake, as far as I can see. Although in the next episode they call it a landslide. So the walls of the valley are crumbling and everything, and everybody's trying to get out of there. and there's just dirt falling everywhere, burying people. So it is, and you can't tell. It ends with the cliffhanger. You can't tell who's been hurt too badly or not. But fortunately for us, we cover 2 episodes per podcast, so we get to check out the next one to see who got hurt from this explosion. And and so and so let's move on to the next episode, The Sands of Ares, which of course was is Ares means Mars in Greek, so that's that. So we're going to talk about that episode in just a second. FKHC 2005 says, I have asked an astronaut what the protocol is if someone dies in space. I think they play it all by ear at this point. Yeah, I always wonder that myself. I figure the astronauts probably write down, like, assign something to say what they want done with them. And you would think that they'd want to say what happens to their bodies if it's possible to do anything with them. So this next episode is called The Sands of Ares. It's the 8th episode in season 3. First aired on July 29th, 2022. And the star date is early April 1995. Written by Joe Manowski and Eric W. Phillips. Of course, Joe Manowski, a classic Star Trek writer. Directed by Dan Liu. And the synopsis is, after a sudden crisis, the Martian crews pull together. So yes, everybody has to work together now. NASA is going to be helping Helios and the Russians. And so this is a good moment of cooperation. But we don't get out of the space opera stuff. There's a lot of that, and we've got villains. Even more than Danny. Danny's done his villainy in the last one. This episode, he's paying the price for that. He's stuck underground most of this episode. Here, the NASA team at Happy Valley, the Happy Valley module, they learn about the landslide and they try to make contact with Helios. They say, Danielle has her team take rovers with emergency gear. She wants to help with the situation. And I love when she says this. If there was I wanted to get a clip of this. I didn't get the time. She says this to Will and Roland. She says, because they had a problem earlier in the other episode. They had an interpersonal problem. And Danielle says, whatever interpersonal crap you two have going on stops now. And so I do appreciate that. She wants people to focus on their jobs and not about, however they feel about each other. And it does seem in this episode that finally that advice is taken, and Roland is no longer being terrible to Will, who had come out in the last episode or so. So basically, at the end of the episode, they're on a collision course to wackiness. So at this point, bad 80s joke coming in. NASA needs another 7 astronauts. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that is a bad joke. But you know what I know about that joke? And it, well, yes, and of course that's if it's a bad 80s joke. Reference to Challenger. And yes, there are because Danny didn't do his job because he was high on whatever he was high on, his oxycodone or whatever he was taking. That is the cause of all of this death. And so they find that the cause of the explosion happened at the Helios drilling site, and Daniel sends over the rovers. And with all their emergency gear, everything they can carry. and look at that seismograph. That's nice. So Alexei Polotov, he's able to dig out of the Mars, uh, all of the dirt, and he searches for other survivors to see who else is alive. And he finds Nick Corrado, but Nick is dead. So that Nick passed away, unfortunately. And what's the most unfortunate thing about that in particular is that Nick was the only person who saw Danny fail to to release the compressor or to deal with the drill. And basically it's Danny's fault the drill exploded, but nobody knows that because the only witness, Danny Corrado, is dead. So whether Ed sends Danny back up to the Phoenix to get him out of the away from everybody else, it remains to be seen to see if he's going to continue to be a danger to everyone or not. And yes, this episode is called The Sands of Aries. Written by Joe Manowski and Eric Phillips. And directed by Dan Lee. And Pam is still confronting, Ellen is confronting Pam on the letter that, that Pam wrote. I feel like I talked about this already, but I guess I did. I just wanted to get it over with earlier. And I already mentioned this scene, but I don't want to talk about it again because it's not that interesting. She, of course, just say what it is. Pam gave up Ellen so that Ellen could make a difference in her life and become president. And Pam thought that Ellen would make a difference for the freedoms of gay people to just be able to say they're gay. Like that's a very basic human right. But Pam she's been doing stuff, but what she's been doing, Pam calls it um, compromises and whatever. It's not good enough for Pam. But I mean, what would Pam's solution be? That's one thing to say I'm not happy with what you've done. So what is Pam going to do about it? Is there something? Does she have an idea? If she doesn't, then what is the point of this scene? What is the point of Ellen risking her entire life, at least her entire career anyway, to go to Pam? If Pam's not going to have some kind of, not going to help in some way. Anyway, we're rescuing the people on Mars who were buried in the aftermath of the drilling site explosion. And they find, and Alexei finds Louisa. And yeah. And so they're searching around, and they find Isabel died too. So she's dead. And they consider the possibility that everything else is gone and that they are all that is left. Could we be the only survivors? Imagine that. We know that's not true, but the sheer horror of the idea that everyone and everything else on Mars, including your shelter and everything that was keeping you alive, is now dead or non-operational. That would be really spooky. And Louisa, that is what Louisa thinks. MSAM, the Hab, is a fuel factory. They're all gone. Could we be the only survivors? And so Happy Valley is finally able to talk to the Phoenix and learn that the Hab 1 was buried from the landslide. And of course, the Hab 1 has Ed and Danny. Ed and Danny are trapped in the airlock of Habitat 1. And Karen makes a decision that she's going to go comfort the families who have astronauts who are not accounted for. And Dev promises to help find Ed. And Danny is cleaning Ed's wound, and he's hopeless. He doesn't have any hope of getting out. He thinks they're going to lose oxygen before they could be dug out. And so he doesn't have any hope. But yeah, all pessimism here at this point, as they're trapped, buried alive. And so, since they don't have any ventilators, the only air that they have is from the airlock itself, and so it's not going to last very long. They have about 6 or 7 hours, and so it makes sense that they're a little pessimistic. If they would have had all the air from the whole base, they would have been better off. So the Happy Valley team arrive at the other habitat. They have a Helios habitat too, which isn't buried. And so they work on mounting a rescue. So, and to locate where Habitat 1 is, because nobody knows where it is precisely. So they need to fix, and then they need to fix their UHF antennas to be able to contact them, because they were damaged in the landslide. And they consider that Ed and Danny could be trapped, buried alive inside, and they're correct. So, meanwhile, buried, as they're buried, Danny is going through some withdrawals, and he's becoming ever more hopeless. Meanwhile, everyone else is trying to rescue them. So granular debris flows movement in a somewhat uniform path, like a mudslide. So our starting assumption is that Hab 1 is buried not far from where they ended up. If we're lucky, this should give us a fighting chance to find where Hab 1 is buried. And so Danielle says we can't just go digging up random holes hoping to hit pay dirt. You guys mapped out the lava tubes around here. That means you've got ground penetrating radar, correct? And so they connected that ground penetrating radar to a rover to help them with the rescue mission. And apparently this is going to help them find the Habitat 1, which is containing Ed and Danny. And they're going to use a grid pattern to with this GPR. And the UHF is back online, the ultra high frequency radio. I gotta say hello to Diggs BTW7. What's up? Yeah, we're just talking about For All Mankind today. and there's been an accident. They're trying to dig up water to build colonies on Mars, and because you remember how, if you'll recall, they had just a tiny moon base at the beginning of the series, and it grew and grew until it looked like a little mini town. And so that's essentially, I'm sure, the end goal for Mars also. But since they're so far away from Earth, they need a source of water where they are, and they found a source of water. But unfortunately, um, they trusted somebody really high on drugs to help them with this drilling mission. So it failed and it exploded, causing a landslide, burying and killing astronauts. So, yeah, that's why it's very important to make sure that the people working with you are clear minded and not on brain debilitating medication. Greek letter says, Epiphany hit me. In the past, the ships carried rats. It was impossible to get rid of them, and carried rats wherever the ships caught port. Spaceships in the future will do the same, but with mosquitoes. I bet those flying bloodsuckers can survive on Mars. You gotta tell that to Kelly. She's the one trying to figure out how to find life on Mars. Wow, that would be awful. What a terrible, terrifying prospect. Being stuck in a base with mosquitoes. See, they have ants. There's an ant subplot where there are moon ants that were taken to the moon. There was an ant farm that Danielle broke in season 1. Danielle broke her ant farm. And ever since, there have been ants on the moon base. I'm sure all the way to now in this alternate timeline. So now they're moon ants. But no mosquitoes yet. Mosquitoes have not made an appearance. And so they're working on rescuing Ed and Danny. And oh, that's Strauss. Okay. And this is exactly the text that I read already on how they're going to conduct this mission using the rovers and the GPR ground penetrating radar. I like going fishing when they have one of those radar systems to see where the fish are. And it's they have that when you go deep sea fishing. So back on Earth, Jimmy and Amber Stevens are worrying. They're worrying about obviously Jimmy's getting upset. My brother may die, and they're using this time to sell dick pills. And so I looked it up, and it looks like this this is set in 95, right? This episode. All right. Yeah, it's set early April 95. But in our reality, um, Viagra isn't released until 1998. So I get how most technology is advanced in this show because of the space program. But how did the space program lead to the earlier development of Viagra? I cannot answer this question. I tried to think about it, but it really came up empty. They're worried. They're worrying. But they don't mention Viagra actually, since that's a name brand. They make up another pill. I forget what they call it, but it's the same thing. So Karen comes to comfort Amber because she knows what it's like. And I guess she's taking responsibility for what's happening on Mars. Mm. So Karen's supporting another astronaut wife. And so this kind of reminds me of the early seasons of For All Mankind, where there was another wife, the Deke's wife, also went around to support other wives who were experiencing trauma from their husbands, either being stranded or in some kind of peril in space. And Jimmy says the story about the landslide is bullshit and runs away. And so again, I want to know what he thinks is going on if it's not a landslide. So what is it, Jimmy? What is it? What's happening? What's the truth? You don't believe what's happening, so you tell us what your truth is. So will the 21st century make better boners possible? DJ makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Like in this alternate history universe, apparently, uh, Canadian Spider-Man says, I believe they're experimenting with Viagra to prevent astronauts from passing out from lack of blood pressure to the brain, but I could be wrong. Oh, seriously? Oh, if that's true, then that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so invented for astronauts. Let's see. Well, it was originally invented to treat high blood pressure. So yeah, so you're right about the blood pressure, but whether it was specifically for astronauts is something I can't exactly find. Hmm. It was discovered by Pfizer. But if it has connections to NASA, I don't see it. But you're definitely right about the blood pressure. Interesting. You smashed your fingers with the hammer? Oh no! So you can't really type? Oh, that's terrible news, Spidey. Are you okay? Oh no. You've been working too hard, Spidey. You need a break. And so Kelly's talking to Lexi about how she grew up always thinking her dad was going to die on a mission, and now it might actually happen. And so Alexi comforts her. And while he's doing that, they hold hands and they pick up a signal. So they find it. They find Habitat 1, which is buried under lots and lots of moon dust. Mm, way too much. They're buried way too deep to use hand tools. It'll take too long. By the time they get there, by the time they dig up Habitat 1 by hand, the air will be long gone and Ed and Danny will have died. So they have to come up with another plan. Law quality troll, blood pressure to the little head. Yeah. By the way, I didn't mean that about your injury. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, we're not happy that Spidey hurt his fingers. No, it's awful. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully you didn't break your fingers. Oh, seems painful. But Aleda is really deep into her suspicions for Margot now. She's saying them out loud to Bill Strauss, who's now working for Helios, but now Helios and NASA are working together to save the astronauts who were harmed in the explosion or buried, and it's specifically Ed and Danny who are buried deep. And meanwhile, Margot realizes that Deb just wandered off and isn't around to help. And so she finds him in the control room. And he talks to her about how his dad built the components for the Saturn V but lost his job because of the disaster of Apollo 23 exploding and all the drama with that. Do you remember all the way back to season one when when they got when there was a subpar company that that made a certain component that caused the explosion. And Dev says that he tells part of the story, but he leaves out the part where his dad failed and never got a job as an engineer again. Because Dev thinks that Americans only care about success, but actually, I'm not sure that's true. I think that people are interested when there's failure, but that when it's used as an inspiration to do better, to improve, as Dev did, at least he, at least until he decided not to rescue the Russians. I still think that's a bad move, but and that in particular is where his ambition, no matter the cost, went a little too far. But essentially, yeah. So I guess it's a bit, at least it's a bit of relevant drama. This isn't just, the kind that bores me. So this is good drama. No, it's not too bad. Okay, so meaning Spidey's fingers. It sucks though. It's hard to type and do stuff. I hope they feel better soon. Greek letter says, I've drilled my fingers, sawed my fingers, but never hammered my fingers. I'm gonna give it a try. You sawed your fingers? Oh my god. You drilled your how? Why? Why are you guys not paying attention to your fingers? Oh. Canadian Spider-Man says, damn hurricane clip nails. Short and stubby. I've hit that finger many times. It's a guy thing. Yeah, I can tell it's a guy thing. Apparently, Greek letters relates to you, Canadian Spider-Man. I guess I burned my fingers, but I have not hammered or drilled into my fingers yet. Yes, Canadian Spider-Man says yes. I've also drilled my little finger too, holding it behind some metal, and had it in the wrong spot. Yikes! Chinese carpenters are always hitting the. I could the wrong spot. Righty. Okay, so Karen. So this shows that even a bad character like Karen can do some good here. She's comforting Amber, as Amber is afraid for Danny, her husband, who's buried alive at Mars and is being rescued, and so she's worried about him. And so that Karen makes some food. They cook some dinner. And they get a phone call that Danny and Ed have been located. And so back at the White House, Larry confronts Ellen now about what Ellen's done wrong. That she's now not no worse than Larry for flying all the way to Pam. As I learned today, the other drill is still aboard Phoenix, so we're back to the Johnson Space Center, and Dev decides he finally comes back with an idea because he thinks better when he's alone. So he comes back when he has an idea. He proposes that he says that they should use a bomb. If we enter the lobby, Let me actually read this because I think this would be good to read. Where is it? Oh, I don't have my transcripts ready. Transcript for Aries. Fans of Aries. Almond fruit. Enter. Okay, so this is his plan. He says, Hab 1 also sits above a lava tube. So if we enter the lava tube where it's closest to the surface, which GPR places 3 meters below the debris field, traverse that tube until we're just downstream from the habitat. Blow a hole in the tube roof. Enough of the material above will flow down from the hab through the hole into the lava tube, like grain from a hopper. So here's the interior lava tube. Here's the debris, the sand tube. And so they figure if they explode the tube, that they're going to reveal the habitat. And it'll actually expose the habitat to the surface. And, well, and if they get the calculations wrong just a little bit, they could destroy it. So it's a super risky plan, but nobody else has a plan to get to them in time. So, of course, this is the plan that they go back to. And so that's what they're going to try. They're engineers. They figure something out. We have core drills and explosives on site, so this plan is possible. And so they find out that their carbon dioxide scrubbers are maxed out. And Ed tries to tries to make sure that Danny feels more hopeful. But he doesn't. He says, pretty soon we have to put our suits back on. And Danny says, so I can live a few more hours and die a horrible death? No thanks. And so Ed says, well, you're going to die from hypothermia. And Danny says, they say freezing is a good way to go. It's just like falling asleep. And Ed says, you're getting into one of those suits if I have to stuff you into it myself. But Danny says, how are you going to force me to do anything? You're too hurt to force me. And so so they get into a fight where Danny is telling him how scared he always made Shane. Shane told me about your bike riding lessons, that you terrify him, and that he was happier. Like he's just being really mean to his parenting, and that's how they get into a fight. And it opens up his wound again. So Ed's wounds open up again. Danny apologizes and fixes Ed up, and actually he uses this white crystal, this blood clot powder, and so to make the clot. If they have duct tape, they can fix the CO2 converter. No sweat. Well, you should have been down there with them. I don't know if they had any duct tape. They didn't even consider. You know what? They just said, "Oh, this doesn't work anymore. We're going to run out of air." Nobody asked the question: is can we actually fix our problem? And of course, Karen tries to comfort Jimmy, but Jimmy confronts her about, and Jimmy knows about Danny and Karen. That terrible plot line that I absolutely hate. The Danny and Karen. affair that ended Karen and Ed's marriage. And apparently Karen never told Ed about Danny. So even buried under all of that moon dust, Ed still doesn't know who Karen had an affair with. But Jimmy does. And Jimmy says, "You were just using Danny. Everybody uses Danny." And I don't know. So much soap opera. And Greek letter says duct tape. Making handyman since 1930. Got that right, Greek letters. I mean, they did it on Apollo 13 with duct tape in a plastic bag for human waste. And they did use duct tape in on the moon base in previous season where they used it to make it to where they could stop a nuclear meltdown. Although the one thing Karen and Jimmy do relate to is hating the space program. They pretty much just don't like space. Even though Karen is working for space. So there's that. Habitat 2 makes it to Habitat, makes it to the site. Makes oh no, their whole job was just to find Habitat 1, and they do. So they make it back, and Alexei collapses. He's feeling bad. His headache's getting worse, and he passes out like he barfs, and he's not feeling good. And apparently, the problem is so bad that they're gonna have to drill into his skull. So what is it? Drill. He says that Dimitri, the doctor, says, "I suspect subdural hematoma," so he's going to have to drill a hole into his skull to release the pressure, which is interesting because they couldn't release the pressure for the drill to get the water. Now they also have to drill into Alexei's head, and he also needs a blood transfusion, and Kelly happens to share the same blood as Alexei. So that is. And so actually that makes Alexei pretty happy to be getting some of Kelly's blood. Will and Roland are setting the explosives, and I really do feel the tension in this scene. It's well done. And I'm happy to hear them teasing each other again like friends again. Because I had enough of Roland being terrible to Will. That was enough of that. I'm glad that they're working together again, and they're helping to save Ed and Danny. They plant the explosives to hopefully expose the hub to the Martian surface. And so Danny said, "Ed's right. We should probably get into our suits." And so now they've reversed roles. Ed is now the hopeless one and I don't know, how did that factor? Is that because Danny was making him feel like he was less than a capable father? I'm not sure. But Ed's guilty. He feels guilty because he argued with Kelly just before this, and he argued with Shane and yelled at him right before Shane ran away and got hit by a car and passed away from brain injuries. And Danny does make one confession. He confesses that all this time he's been the one who's been doing all the mischief and let Shane take the blame. And he felt guilty about it, so he wanted to live the life that Shane should have had. And, except for the whole part with Karen. Gross. Oh yeah, Shane says if he had never met me, Karen would have driven him to that basketball game. He would have never gotten hit by that car. He would have gone to Annapolis, and he'd be here today instead of me. You know, if I thought if I lived the life that I took from him, the life he was meant to live, that it might somehow make up for what I did. I fucked it up. And Ed comforts Danny, and then Danny is about to confess something else. He says, "There's something else I have to tell you." And there's one or two things that Danny was about to confess. He was either going to confess the affair that he had with Karen, or he was going to take responsibility for getting them into the trouble they're in right now with the explosion, where he was on drugs and couldn't actually help with the drill and cause the explosion. So which one he was gonna confess, we never find out, because just as Danny's about to confess, the bomb goes off and exposes the habitat just like Dev imagined, and they're saved. And they made it. They received, Amber and Karen received the news that Danny and Ned were rescued, and so everybody hugs. And maybe Jimmy will finally realize the reality of the situation and stop hanging around with crazy people who steal statues. So Ed wakes up from his. Oh, hold on just a moment. My daughter has a surprise for me. Hold on just a moment.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
A Greek letter says, imagine feeling sick and going to the doctor, and he tells you that in order to get better, he has to drill into your skull. The joys of modern medicine. I know, and think of what Dr. McCoy would think. What is this, the Dark Ages? And so, definitely. So, unfortunately, Alexei doesn't make it. The drilling into a skull and the blood transfusion does not save Alexei. He does not survive. And so Kelly, of course, is inconsolable. She loved Alexei. They loved each other. They were pretty romantic. It was actually a really cute romance. And most of the romances I don't like on this show. The only ones I really like, I guess, they either are dismantled, or someone dies, or someone goes blind. Anyway, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I love that Tootsie Roll commercial, and it was a good buffer. I'm actually going to add some more commercials, but I need to come up with a compilation. And Ed also comforts Kelly. Danny just leaves. And so this is the aftermath of the rescue. The rescue was a success. Danny survives. But of course, Isabel and Nick are dead. And to close the episode, Ustinov and Mayekovsky say they reveal something about Kelly that I suspected, that I was correct about, that Kelly is pregnant. Unfortunately, the father just died. So Alexei just died. So Kelly's going to be a single mom. But she doesn't even know it yet. These Russians apparently know it before she does because the doctor Dmitri used her blood for the transfusion, and I guess he suspected something and tested her blood for pregnancy, and it came up positive. And they say that they need to talk to Moscow because it's going to put everybody at risk. It puts the whole crew at risk. And I guess, and that's always the question. Well, of course, it's Kelly's baby, so that's if the baby's born on Mars, we'll have our first Martian, and we'll also have our first parents in space, first mother in space. The first father is dead. First grandfather. And so then that's it. That's the episode for today. A commercial compilation. Cool. Yeah, I know. I've got to work on it though. It's going to be fun. That's something I need to set aside time to do. Stop screen. There we have it. Those are the episodes. Season 3, episodes 7 and 8. We reviewed them. And they were okay. There was an attempt to get to the water. They failed. Everything exploded because Danny won't stop taking drugs. So hopefully we get rid of Dan ILIC. I'm not saying Danny needs to not be on Mars anymore. Kick him off. Send him to the brig. For stealing drugs and for, even if they don't know about what he did with the drill. See, that's the problem, is they don't know what he did with the drill unless he confesses to it. And he was only feeling in the mood to confess things when he thought he was about to die. Now that he's been saved, is he going to come clean anyway? He has to feel guilty about it. He caused those deaths. He's the reason those people died. So what is that going to do to him? What it's going to decide based on his failure is what's going to happen possibly in the next episode. Next week, we're going to have the season finale episodes for All Mankind. They're called Coming Home. And episode 10. Okay, so episode 9 is called Coming Home, and the synopsis is plans to leave Mars are complicated by an unforeseen issue. Okay, so it's not just Danny that has to go, it's everybody, right? Because they encountered a disaster that makes it a problem to get home. And so they should get home as soon as they can, because they all their equipment, their most important equipment is all buried. So what are they going to even do? It's not productive to be there. So I guess that makes sense. Episode 10 is called Stranger in a Strange Land. And the synopsis for that one is the Martian crew debates on how to save the life of one of their own. And so that's something that we're going to explore next time. But it was cool to explore these episodes with you today. Thank you for listening. And gosh, But I guess they're trying to make me like Karen again by having her be the one to come and comfort the astronaut wife who's dealing with the issue of her husband being in peril for the first time. But it's just Karen, and I guess it's fine. I can't I can dislike the character, but like the things that they do, which I also see with Deb. I don't like that. I don't like that Deb didn't save the Russians, but I do like. Oh, there's a line that he makes. I like. Let's see if I can find the line. It's a very good line in this episode. He says, "Okay, so he's come up with the idea to blow up to use a bomb to rescue Ed and Danny." And his line, the best line, one of the best lines of the episode is, "These are engineering problems, my friends, and we are engineers." So even when something seems impossible, if you you work hard at it, you can possibly succeed, and they did. So that was good. And Danny was about to confess possibly either what he's done with Karen or what he did with the drill when he turned off the comms. And because he caused all this disaster that is stretched across these 2 episodes. And unfortunately, we lost astronauts Nick Corrado and Isabel Castillo. And just, I just need this Danny storyline to be over. It's not my favorite. I don't really like it very much. And the only thing that's going to be sad about it is whatever happens with Amber, because he clearly doesn't love her, and I don't understand why he married her. Pretty messed up. And she has a baby. They have a baby. So if he's gonna, whatever, I have no idea. I just want to find life on Mars. Where are my Martians? Where are my aliens? I don't care about what's going on with Danny anymore. Stop talking to me about Danny and give me some damn Martians. Oh, I guess Kelly's baby will technically be a Martian, but she's not an actual alien. So Greek letter says adios muchachos. Adios. Greek letters. Oh, there was some technology in this episode. There's I think I saw some kind of hand tablet thing, and I think it was a BlackBerry that the president has. Poor Amber, she deserves better, basically. And we'll see you guys next time. We'll talk about this. We'll have the season finale next time. And for now, oh right, and on Friday I'm going to continue talking about Harry Potter. It's going to be fun. I really enjoyed talking about this entire series. It's really coming to the main event with Voldemort and how he's decided he's going to live forever, and he's got a plan to do that, and it's been enacted, and he thinks it's foolproof. But we'll see how that works on Friday, when we talk about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Also on Saturday, don't miss Saturday night. I'm gonna have a shore leave stream because I like to every once in a while I like to have a shore leave at night. That way people who normally can't make it to these live streams at this time, where it's a lot more convenient for you to show up at nighttime. And so that's a cool way to get in touch with my subscribers who can't make it when I normally stream. And I'm having these Saturday night shore leaves once a month. And so the once a month stream should be coming up this Saturday. And Snortopoopus Huber says, take care, every human. And DJ Play Nice says, thanks, Jill. Have an awesome afternoon. I will. And if you guys were missing Phil, Phil's okay. He's just feeling a little under the weather, so he'll be back next time for our season finale, for season 3 of For All Mankind. And until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye now.
Learn all that is learnable. And the ways our differences combine to create meaning and beauty.
It has always been easier to destroy than to create.
May we together become greater than the sum of both of us.
Well, now you have something new to think about. Carry on.
As Bertrand Russell once said, the only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation.
See you around the galaxy.